before. So,
Yeah.
Aaron, give us a couple lines.
Hello. No, I was obviously regional coach for English Table Tennis Association for 2 or 3 years. Was a coach before that for 5 or 6 years as well. Not the best of players, but kind of county level player, but definitely kind of known for developing young children through their game. And now I'm a publican, so I haven't really had nothing to do with table tennis for a while. So to be fair, I'm really enjoying it. So thank you for asking me to come over. So yeah, just something a bit different for me, and hopefully, I know a bit, but more so 6 years ago than the modern day.
Yeah, perfect. That's what we
Aaron,
want.
did you pour that pint that Danny has in his hand there?
What? Oh, yeah, but no.
But it's becoming that's my tradition. Every time I'm on it, I'm just going to have a pint. Over the 100 episodes that I finally come on in 10 years' time, you've seen me always having a pint.
Danny's definitely put on some tubs since last time I saw him.
Yeah. Mate, I weigh nearly 14.5 stone now. That's bad for a bloke of 5'7", isn't it?
God. Gavin would have you out the team tomorrow, mate.
Yeah, so my question is, and the last couple of episodes, one of them are yet to be released, but last couple of episodes, I've done kind of quite nice questions, like who's the nicest, who's the coolest. But it's time for some tough questions for you guys. So that's why I've got you guys on here. So my question is, I'm going to answer it last. Does Gavin Evans deserve, is the key word, so how you want to interpret that, to be the Table Tennis England senior national team coach? And
nice question.
It's on the spot, obviously, so I'm going to ask Danny to answer first.
Fucking hell. Fuck me, Ashley. Jesus. That's does he deserve it? With the current batch of players that he's got, I feel that he's an okay. He knows them players very, very well because he used to play with them players. So when it comes to man management and knowing what they need and what they want as players, and for player morale and team morale, I think he's the right bloke. Is he the right bloke to be the coach to improve them as players? I don't know. I know Gav. Gav was quite heavily involved in Grantham when I was in Grantham, and he's a really good player coach. I don't know if he's tactical, if he's up to that level to coach them to become a better player. When you talk about Liam and Paul and Tom, players like that, does he deserve it? I don't know. I think he's probably got there on his merit of being what he was as a player and how well he ran Grantham in the year that he ran Grantham. I don't know. Is there better people that could have got that job? Then yes, if you ask me my honest opinion. I think there's more highly qualified and more experienced people that are in that position that could have got that job.
Okay, nice. Appreciate the honest opinion. And it's hard. When you're on the spot, it's hard. So obviously the other guys have had long to think about it. So I'll go to Gavin.
All right. I'm glad I didn't have to go first on that one. I really didn't want to be first. I was writing frantically there because that's a dangerous question, like you said.
Can I just add? Sorry, Gav. That I just want to add on to the end of that. That I do like Gavin as a bloke, and I've got nothing against him. I just going off.
It's all right, Dan. He knows now what you really do.
Yeah.
Don't worry, he knows.
Dan, do you want this, mate?
He's commenting as we speak.
Dan, do you want that bottle? Got a bottle.
Mate.
You want that?
I'm sweating already.
Get over it.
But anyway, yeah. Gotta go on here. Ashley has us on a timer. I think Gavin Evans, as a bloke, I think people forget about who he was as a player. Nobody makes it the European champion if they haven't got pedigree, I think that's really easily forgotten because he's been so long out of the top level and out of the top game. But he's never stopped watching table tennis. He's never stopped being involved in table tennis. He's never stopped improving his mind. And if you've got a good enough mind to win the European Championships at an under 15, you've got a good enough mind to improve and to get better as a coach. And I think like I said, people forget that. I think on top of that, you have to remember the situation that he came in. It was 1 year out from the games, or 9 months out from the Olympic Games. They needed somebody to come in and steady the ship that had a relationship already with the players. So I think he's really a good guy for that. He grew up with every single one of them. He was in a team with every single one of them at junior level. So I think he really filled that gap well. So to say that he deserved the job, probably if it was a full-time position of 4 years right then, no. But to fill in a 9-month role, absolutely, I think he's one of the best candidates for it. So I think you look at something like Solskjaer at United. It's now his opportunity to prove himself. He didn't necessarily have the coach's CV to take the England senior team job, like Solskjaer didn't have the United CV. But it's now an opportunity for him to prove himself, and why not give it to an English guy who's proved himself as a player, and he wants to be a coach, and he's really motivated to do that, and he's already got that built-in relationship with the players. So for me, it was a good choice at the time, and I hope he proves himself, and I hope he gets it full-time if he does a good job.
Yeah, nice. Aaron, you go to you next.
Yeah, so I wrote down a few notes. I think it's important to start thinking about what are the goals of the country first, because obviously if they're setting really, really high goals that, they need someone more experienced involved, then obviously they may need to look further. But I think for me, there needs to be, I've worked obviously with there needs to be a pathway, I think is key. You can't just have people jumping in roles all the time. I think a pathway through the coaches and stuff is important. But also, I think, like what Gavin was saying, he does have very strong mental attributes. And I think that the kids and adults would look up to him in terms of his mental skills. And the technical and the ability isn't always important. You don't have to be in the best in the world as a player to be the best in the world as a coach. So there's a lot he could offer, certainly. And I think you're right. It is important to have an English coach, especially with an English culture. I think if you went international, with the likes of Jai, I think that the way of doing things is different. And their style of coaching, people don't relate to as much. So in that respect, I think Gavin is a good option because he's probably experienced a lot of European methods and English methods that are that the kids and the adults would kind of take to. So, Is he probably the best candidate? Look, at the time, it's hard to make that decision. It's very subjective as well. So you couldn't say yes or no. But certainly, I think he's young, and is that a good or a bad thing? I think a little bit more experience would probably be key. And certainly some people that have been involved with English table tennis and know their vision for a little bit longer might be, more apt.
Yeah, nice points. Ellie?
I'm actually a bit nervous to answer this because it's a really difficult question. Does he deserve it? Probably not. Sorry, I repeat that. Does he deserve it? Probably yes. Has he earned it? No. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I think it takes years, and it takes a minimum of 10 years to just formulate the basic fundamental understanding of what coaching is and what you are as a coach. After that, then you start growing from many different angles. But I don't think he hasn't had enough experience. He did some local coaching, I believe, and then he went to Grantham, and then boom, head coach of England men's senior team. Yes, I understand he is friends with those guys. And I also find it very disappointing that the England selectors or the people that run table tennis England, there is no interview. It's okay, Gavin, you've got the job. Okay, Alan, you've got the job. Sorry?
I was about to say, I'd love to know how that job was advertised and how many people got the the chance to apply for that.
No one got the
No,
the
and
chance.
you know that, Ellie, you know that was done behind closed doors.
Of course.
And I generally feel if there's probably 10 other people in the UK that could have applied that don't have the relationship with the players like Gavin does, and don't have the playing experience that Gavin does, however has the 10 years experience behind them to I feel like Gavin could have been brought in as a good player liaison with those players. And
well, this is what I was going to say, is that you need to build up to get to somewhere. And I read Alex Ferguson's book recently, and he talks a lot about how you've got to have experience to, he said the first 5-10 years of his coaching career was all failures, and that's how we become successful. So, to bring someone like Gavin with very limited experience, let's be honest, okay, as a player, he's achieved great, and he worked 1 or 2 years at Grantham. You're talking that you've got to work up the levels, exactly a bit like Aaron said. And I don't feel we have a very good structure in England with working your way up, which is very sad and disappointing, especially for coaches who devote their lives and have some wonderful achievements. There's plenty of coaches that we can all name in England that that have earned that position. Deserving is different, because he might have all the passion in the world. He might be worthy, but he hasn't earned it. There's a difference.
Okay, good. Yeah. I said I would answer it last. And to be honest, my answer's kind of changed. Originally, when I was going to answer it, I was going to say, probably it's not wrong what I was going to say, is that I think he is the best candidate for the job. He's young, he's English, he's passionate, everything that you guys have said. And I think we'll agree with that. And also being a young coach and being given that opportunity, it kind of like opens the doors in a way to a lot of people thinking, wow, like if they like me, if I'm doing good work, I can be English national coach. I don't have to go through years and years of courses and this and that to get there. But on the flip side, I understand exactly what you're saying, Ellie, where the question was, does he deserve it? And yes, but has he earned it? Maybe not, but does it matter? I think just going forward, I think we'll all agree, we wish him the best. And if he's successful, it's a young English coach doing wonders. And it just shows as well, though, maybe the coaching side of it, the technical ability to improve players, maybe it's not important at that level. Maybe it's more about the player liaison, about how you're getting on with the players, how you're motivating them.
I'd like to stop you for 1 second, Ash. Sorry, because I was just at the Olympic qualification, and I really don't like to put people down at all. And I'd like to lift it. As soon as Gavin got the job, I was the first person. I published it on my social media congratulating him. But I was sitting there and I was watching the England team for every single match, and I just felt he didn't have the experience required to find solutions, and we failed miserably. I hate to say it, but we did fail miserably. And I always want the best for our nation to do amazing things. But this is qualification for the Olympics, and we're effectively top 5 in the world team, and we didn't qualify. We lost to some teams that we should never be losing to. I just felt there was a little bit of lack of experience there. And that's where it comes down to.
Well, you've got to have a team. Like he can't be the blame for the.
No. I'm not blaming him at all.
It would be important, I think.
But it would be nice to see change of tactics, change of play. There was everything always the same, and it just kept on going downwards.
I think someone like Gavin, it's important to bring someone alongside him that can give some things to it that he can't, and that happens in all teams, across the world in every single sport. So that's maybe what he needs. But certainly there's a difference between a player and a coach, and does he have the experience in coaching? Not yet for me.
Interesting.
Would it be nice if he came in as an assistant role and then moved up
and then
there?
got taken up to it?
Perfect.
But I think the other thing he's also got in that role is that looking at the top 4
boys. So proud.
I'm just thinking that looking at the top 4: Pitchford, Paul, Liam. Pitchford, Paul, Tom, and
Sam.
That's it. Out of those 4 players, is he coaching them on a day-to-day basis? He's probably not. They're all based around Europe, getting coached by their club coach day to day. His job, I see, is not to be a coach. It's to be more of a manager.
Yeah.
Manager, plan their schedules. When he meets them at tournaments, see what they're doing, and then meet up occasionally in Nottingham or wherever for a camp and check up on their development. He's not a coach. Things might have changed, but they, as far as I'm aware, they're based around the world, and their coaches are their coaches, and he's more of a manager and in the corner at a big tournament.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't know if there's any time left, Ash, but that's exactly what I was going to say. You have to understand the role of the national coach. Like, national coach is a bad title for that job because he's not coaching nationally. He's not around and doing things. You know, he's seeing these guys 50 days a year or something like that. You know, at 40 of those days being at tournaments and maybe 15 or 20 days at a camp, and he might go to a pre-tournament camp or something like that. And like Danny said, their coach is their coach in their base, wherever their base is. And that's probably the biggest problem with that role, that he's not with them day to day. And maybe he would or he wouldn't get that job if that was the real role, if the job was to be there with the players all the time. But to be a man manager and a facilitator at that time, 9 months out from Tokyo Games, he was, in their opinion, I'm sure, obviously a good candidate for that.
Nice. We're gonna have to leave it there for that question. It was a great question. Don't know who came up with that.
Okay, guys. So we all know our sport. To us, it's wonderful because we're inside the sport. The sport has done so many amazing things. Ping pong diplomacy. It's known for its mental health benefits. It's the second most played sport in the world. Everyone that you speak to all say, I love it or I enjoy playing. It has so many wonderful elements to it. Having said that, it seems to have a stigma. It seems to have people just disrespecting it. Some people don't even call it a sport. It is an Olympic sport, and yet we have this horrible stigma of it's just a ping pong game. No one really plays. Is it a sport? And I'm just curious to understand, why has this perception come along, and where does it come from, and how can we do something about it? So we can go with the same formula. Let's go with Danny.
I'm not going to get any chance to think about an answer.
Okay, fine. All right. Ashley will give a quick answer, I'm sure. He's our interpreter. Who cares about that? It's done.
Yeah, no, it's I would just, so the stigma, where does it come from? I think it's those short shorts, those short table tennis shorts. Like, when basketball were lengthening theirs, table tennis kind of shortened theirs at the same time. It didn't make any sense. You've got to stick with the fashion. The fashion's way behind. Some of those shirts, Danny's got one on now. Like, what is that? Like, come on. Like, you've got to get with the time. Nice.
Nice, Danny, nice.
That's the fitted version, yeah?
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? They've got to adapt their branding, their styles. Why? You got to ask your question as well. Okay, I'm going on the fashion sense here, but why haven't Nike or Adidas got into the fashion? Like, they could just, surely they would just destroy Butterfly and Stigo. Who wants to walk around with a Butterfly t-shirt on? Like, to be honest, well, obviously now we don't give a shit, but when we were younger, like, I had to hide my Butterfly shirt. I went to an inner city London school. You think I walk around with a Butterfly shirt on? Flipping out. It was bad enough that I played table tennis. So
see, that's where it's crazy.
Oh yeah, I would blame Butterfly, Stiga, and I just think their fashion is awful.
So for you, it's fashion.
Get a new cap then, mate. Fucking hell.
Obviously, I know all about fashion, obviously, so that's why.
Where's your dress?
No,
you need to be wearing your dress.
Red Bull's trying to get you to wear your dress next time.
When he's on, I'll put it on. Yeah, next person.
Annie?
I think that to make a sport bigger, and to get rid of the stigma, we need the bigger players to have more of a profile. You need the Liam Pitchards, Paul Drinkles of England. Just thinking about the UK for the minute, not the worldwide. They need to have a bigger influence on social media, because that's how you change that's how you change people's opinion now. Is social media. They need to be getting themselves out there on programs. I don't know if they could, but like Soccer AM, play things like this to talk about what they do.
Absolutely.
Liam did that behind the back shot. If he had a bigger following of 200,000 instead of the 20,000 he's got, that would have gone viral. That automatically changes people's theory. Put a few videos of them doing multi-ball up with Jai back in the day. People automatically think, shit, table tennis isn't a... People say to me right now, every day I see, why don't you come back to table tennis? And I say, oh, I've put a bit of weight on, I can't play at that level. They're like, oh,
Don't
why?
need to move.
Like, you're only playing table tennis. Yeah, like, why? You only got... I said, no, because now I'm covering a bit of weight. I couldn't move to the way I used to. Why? But if you had these top players to go, look at that. Look at, like... And they know who Liam Pitchford is. He's number 15 in the world. Straight away, they've got no argument. The stigma's gone. And every time they play table tennis from now on, they say, fucking hell, look at this. And I think that's what you need. But that stream, sorry, just to add, that streams from the top. That needs to come from Table Tennis England to their players to say, look, you need to raise your profile. The only person in the UK that has got a decent profile is Will Bailey. The only person.
Agreed.
Oh, good dancer.
Yeah, and look what he's just done. I don't know if you've seen recently. He's doing these masks for.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah.
Do you think if Liam Pitchford right now designed a mask for the NHS or for anything, he'd sell 10,000 of them? No chance. Will Bailey's been able to smash that out of the park, and that all comes down to profile, which I know has nothing to do with table tennis, but that comes from their profile.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, Aaron.
Yeah, so yeah, I said media as well. I mean, in all success, when you look at top sport in the world, if you look at the Premier League, for example, the reason why people talk about it positively, the reason why everyone wants to earn millions of pounds is because it's shown to them every single day of the week. You can see football. You know, table tennis is changing. You can notice it more now. You see it on Facebook every day. You know, like clips of these longest rallies in the world, you know, and all of that. And I think it is changing slightly. Now, I don't know whether the ping pong element has had a negative effect on it, or it's had a positive. You've got both kind of, you know, spectrums of it. I mean, when you've got a tournament in England, you know, giving out more prize money than our own table tennis one, it can be a little bit embarrassing and probably degrades what table tennis is. Because you hear the questions all the time, like, what is the actual difference between...
Yes.
You know? And I think that you've got the whole recreation versus professionalism and competitive sport. And I think for so long, England, and even when I worked with England, we focused on recreation, and it's gone on and on, all about introducing new people to our sport, introducing. I think now, and it has happened definitely since I've finished, you know, I think that mentality needs to change, you know, and now they need to think, right, let's get number one in the world, let's get top 10 in the world. You know, and with Liam, with Paul even, and with the new group of players and Tom and Sam, you know, you have got an opportunity there of progressing forward with a bunch of players, because I think that's important too. It's so hard when you're on your own to get up there. If you've got 4 or 5 players, you know, and you can reach high levels, then I think that's key. And I think role models as well, which Danny talked on. If you look at Des Douglas, Chester Barnes, we hear these names pumped around all the time. You know, are people going to be talking about Liam and Paul in 40 years' time? You know, that's the question. We don't know that now, but you certainly want that to happen. And Liam's been the closest towards that for years and years. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but I do get what you're saying. You know, I think the mentality's got to change for me. Like, it's not recreation anymore, it's sport, and let's get out there and be the best. Like, you know, and China, you know, kicking us out the park, but, you know, create one role model is achievable, definitely.
Yeah, I think everybody touched on some good points. Like, and to be honest, I would ask the question on top of your question: is table tennis marketable? You know, is it good to watch on TV? I don't think it is.
No.
Like, this might seem crazy as a coach who loves table tennis and eats, sleeps, and breathes table tennis, but I find it really boring to watch table tennis on video. So I won't sit there on YouTube and watch videos all day long of. I might watch little clips of good rallies, yeah, absolutely, but I won't sit down and watch a full match. There's too many breaks. There's too many pauses going on between. And then I ask myself, like, where do I enjoy watching table? It's when I'm in a hall and I have 6 tables in front of me at a big tournament, and I can see 6 matches going on at one time, and I'm involved emotionally in all 6. So that's something that maybe I think table tennis needs to consider. If it wants to be bigger, that there needs to be a little bit of multi-table viewing kind of thing going on. That's where I enjoy to watch table tennis, I know, because you can get a bit more emotionally invested in a few matches rather than one that takes forever. You know, 1 serve, 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. They go to collect the ball. There's a timeout. There's so much breaks going on, and that for me is boring to watch.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And that kind of takes me into the ping pong. Then the point that Aaron made, you know, the production that Sky do on the ping pong is unbelievable, and that for me can only be positive for table tennis. I'm really willing to sacrifice the name table tennis for ping pong if it's going to reach a greater audience and a greater amount of people. Do you think someone watching the ping pong doesn't think that the Flash Fleming or Alexander Fleming is athletic? You know, they know he's an athlete. He's moving around the court at 100 miles an hour. So they know he's an athlete, just has a dodgy name, ping pong. That's fine. I'm really willing to sacrifice that if we can get producers like Sky behind table tennis or ping pong and make characters and make it marketable again. If Barry Hearn's going to do that and invest in that, then I'd be delighted with that. But for me right now, it's not really a marketable sport. And I actually think what you said, actually Butterfly are doing a good job at changing their way. I think their clothing is actually pretty cool now. Maybe not perfect, and some of it I will wear out, like some of it I won't, of course, fair enough. But I think they're doing a good job rather than the other companies of actually starting to get a bit more modern with the times and copy a little bit like Adidas and Nike and stuff like that, and then it becomes a little bit cooler step by step. That's it for me, really, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
you all made some wonderful points. By the way, I don't know if anyone knows, but Adidas did come into table tennis, but weren't allowed to really
they done
flourish.
some shoes quite a bit as well on tops, wasn't it? Yeah. I remember the Climacool ones.
Yeah. Okay, so from my side, it's a good thing what you said there about, is it a watchable sport, Gavin? Because I've gone to watch some football matches, and I'll be honest with you, I find them dead boring. But okay, that's me personally. But what I'm trying to say there is that what football and all these other sports do very well that I found is that they make it an entertainment show alongside sport. And that's where I feel we lack horrendously. I've gone to see some basketball matches because Harefield used to have a professional basketball team, and we used to go. The entertainment was insane. Every little quarter break, they had these dancers and jumpers and the trampolines and gymnasts, and it was just magnificent. You go to a table tennis hall, and like you said, you're watching and you're seeing them picking up the ball. You get one rally out of 20 minutes of watching. You get one cool rally. You get excited. The rest you're like, oh. But I think for me, what's really important is that we've got to try and bring an entertainment factor alongside the sport. And that's where, for me, we're truly lacking. And that's probably where ping pong seems to do very well as well. And how can we do that? Well, I remember when I first kind of started playing, John Kaufman actually will back me up here, when we had, actually, maybe it was before Ashley's time, when we had British League matches, John Kaufman would come along, drums, and everyone would get in. It was an atmosphere. Even though you were watching 1 or 2 tables, you felt excited in a very small environment, and you feel excited when you go to ping pong. The atmosphere is great. We just don't have atmosphere. Like I said, it's the Olympic qualification. This is the Olympic qualification. The best players in the world, except for China, are there, and the atmosphere was dead. You know, you've got the Portuguese.
It's like playing in a church. It's like you get to the final of a Grand Prix in the UK. And you see Duran playing Jenkins, and you've got 5 old blokes that have just come out of their care home to watch a table tennis match. Like, it's what makes you want to play table tennis then?
I think there is a massive barrier though, which is finance. You're talking about Premier League and Grand Prix there, like
Yeah,
2
but you got
billion.
to remember, every sport started somewhere. That's not
Yeah.
an excuse. You know, we
I
have to.
feel, I'm sorry, but I feel all these issues come down from TTE, Table Tennis England, not supporting and promoting the game in the right way. They care more about local leagues, where they've got Doris, who's 92, playing a local league and she's been playing for 52 years, instead of a 12-year-old that's going to be the England #1 that they can build a character with as he grows. And instead they try and beat the character out of the 12-year-old and beat him into being Billy Big Bollocks and I remember when I played for England, you were told when you're in an international tournament not to talk to any other country.
Do you play for England?
No, but you were told not to.
That's why no one watches table tennis, because of that.
Yeah, but
people like Danny play for England. How can anyone watch it?
What a fucking disrespect. What a shame.
In fairness, I am joking there, Dan.
I also feel if you put Chris Duran next to Liam, Paul, Sam and Tom, that he's got a bigger personality than all of them, but then guess what? He's the one that don't get selected and then lets himself go.
Mate,
and I genuinely believe Chris Duran's problems, I think, come from how he was treated by the English Table Tennis Association. I do believe that. And they beat you down, and you've got to become a nobody when they should be embracing people's personalities and promoting that, and that's what sells the sport. Instead of a bloke that sits there going, yes, no.
This is the other massive issue. Is you walk into a table tennis hall nowadays, and the kids are told, "No, you can't show. You got to keep quiet, pipe down." You walk in, it's a dead atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's another huge fault in the sport.
Yeah, I used to enjoy playing Helshan, who was my biggest rival, and telling his dad to fuck off. But
yeah, I remember.
you know what I mean?
Right, just before Danny gets banned from table tennis for life, Ellie, you answered your question, right? You said, "Why isn't it cool?" And you want to give us.
Why has it got a bad stigma effect? You know, why has it got a negative stigma?
You Gavin, you want to give a quick
effectively,
summary?
Yeah.
Quick summary.
I just basically want to see, which is one of the reasons why I promote table tennis constantly, because I believe in it so much. It's changed my life. I've changed endless amount of kids and adults as well, their lives, their mentality, and I've managed to make a living out of it. And if I can do it from nothing, anyone can do it. But so that's why I back Danny here. Table Tennis England should be ashamed of themselves. Gain £8 million a year, gain all these fees and subs and tournament entries and all these things. And what did they give back to the sport?
But remember, that £8 million has got to pay a lot of high salaries for people that know fuck all.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mustn't forget that.
That's a big
Sorry, time. I think that's a perfect time for us to move on to our next from Table Tennis England employee.
Ash, can I have 10 seconds?
Yeah, sure.
Go.
Dan, Dan, you need to hear the question, don't you?
Sorry. Could you just repeat that, Aaron? Sorry, mate.
Yeah. So what are the 3 most important attributes that players need to become #1? All right. And let's say #1 in the world, #1 in the country. Now, and what I want you to think about from that as well, and just to summarise it, is from me being a coach and looking at all coaches now, I would say in a coaching hall, we're 90% technical, 10% mental. And why do we coach that way when possibly the sport is the other way round? It's 90% mental and 10% technical. And just talk about why we continue to focus on the technical and physical side of it compared to the mental.
Who's first, Aaron?
Let's go, Gavin.
I had a feeling I was going to get nailed on that one. Yeah, so obviously I haven't had a whole lot of time to think on that. So naming the 3 things that I think are most important is difficult. But I wrote down 3 things there very quickly. And actually, funny enough that towards the end of your question, you started to engage with the mental side. You said 90% is mental and 10% is physical. The 3 things I wrote, I would say maybe 1. No, not even 1 is physical. I wrote like confidence. I think that's key. I'm not necessarily saying that's #1, but that's one of my 3. And then a stubborn determination is #2. That's built into your mental as well. And then the 3rd thing I wrote was energy. because I think you need to have an insane amount of energy, and when you're dead, you need to find reserves that you didn't know you had, and to keep going and to keep getting to that practice at 7 a.m. or to whatever level you're at, to keep going and going and going. So for me, none of those are physical. I think even that energy thing is it's again linked into that stubbornness, like into the mental side. So I didn't actually write one physical, and I think that's like, maybe it's from watching The Last Dance, the MJ documentary over the last week or two, just looking at him as a character and everything that he did to become number one. It's all linked to his mental. Like, you know, of course he had good physical attributes, but he wasn't the biggest guy on the court. He wasn't the fastest guy on the court. He made himself the fastest he could be and the biggest he could be and the right shape to be a good basketball player. But what separated him from the rest was all of his mental attributes, in my opinion, and his ability to lead a team and sacrifice what people thought about him for the greater good of the team. And some people call him a bully and stuff like that, but he was trying to pull the best out of the team around him for the team to win, because he was a winner. So yeah, I think that what you said about 90% is mental is so key, and that's I couldn't put it down to one mental aspect, but I think having that easygoing confidence that you believe in yourself, and then a stubbornness to work and work and work is where it lies for me.
And just to comment on that, why do you think then, from a coach's perspective, we come into a table tennis hall and most of our session plan is focused around the technical side of the game, or certainly all about hitting balls? It's another question, and it's a really difficult one to answer, because I would be guilty of it as well. I focus a lot on technique and me.
But I think at a base level, it's really important, you know, to instill good fundamentals, and then you've got to let a kid experiment with those fundamentals and develop them further, and you're just there to nurture it piece by piece, not necessarily to say this is the way, but to adjust and make small alterations to technique and or to attitude or to whatever, and find small ways to improve them rather than to fix them as such. So I can't answer exactly why we do that and why we focus so much on technique. It probably is something that we need to relook at and investigate a little bit. And I don't think Ashley's going to give me enough time to investigate that even further.
Nice one.
It's good. It's good.
Nice. Who's next?
Ash?
Yeah. All right then. Yeah. So Gavin touched on quite a lot that I was going to say, but my three things that came to my head straight away were passionate. You got to be passionate. You got to love the game, and you got to love winning. And again, none of those are technical or physical attributes. They're all mental. And because if you love the game and you're passionate about the game, you're going to play it for the right reasons. And it's probably why we all started, not always, because we just love the game. And then you continue playing because you'll get a bit of success and you enjoy winning. Otherwise, you don't take it as far as probably most of us took it. So you got to love winning, love the game. And like Gavin talked about MJ, he loved winning. He just wanted to win. So yeah, those are the three things. I don't know if you want to question me on them. I can't really say much else, but those three things came to my mind when you asked the question.
No, and then in terms of just a final question on setting your task for, you know, a group of adults or children in a room, you know, why are we still focusing so much on, you know, short serve, long push, you know, like, should it be more open? Get the ball onto the table, experiment, you know? Yeah. How do you want to develop as a player?
Yeah, no, sorry, I don't, obviously I don't coach anymore. So the couple guys on here that still coach, Gavin and Ellie, probably bite my head off for this, but my first coach was John Kaufman. It was, you get in, you have a knock with your best mate, or whoever, it doesn't matter. Then it's
top table.
It's top table. It's matches. I honestly believe you could become an unbelievable player just by playing matches. So I think I improved a lot from playing a Grand Prix than I did in the week before. Or maybe they give me the extra motivation to try and work on things. You need to work on obviously things, but I could have worked on it at another tournament. And the two coaches might actually kill me here, but I generally believe, because if that's what you love, just say I hate practice. I just want to play matches. So then give me matches and just keep giving me better opponents, and surely I'll figure out a way of beating them. And
I would have loved to have met this John Kaufman bloke. He sounds like an absolute legend. I don't know who he is, but
He is a legend.
But
So
it's just yeah. So what do you reckon to that? Or we ain't got much time, but
Whose turn is it? Is it me or
Ellie,
Danny?
yeah.
Well, I actually have always gone against the grain. I actually don't really do lots of these. Obviously, I've got the technical knowledge and all of that, but I don't. I'm a great believer in, number one, I assess my player. And what I mean by that is I need to understand where their mind is before I start giving them what they want. So if someone like Ashley walked through my doors and I could see all he wants to play games, I'll let him play games, and I will give him challenges with inside games. And then I would, for me, I've always been a person that tries to work with the individual and not work with a system that potentially might work for 1 out of 20. And I'm a great believer in, of course, the basic fundamentals are hugely important. But I kind of work on that at the beginning, and then I move quite quickly into developing the players as an all-round, meaning physical, mental, nutritional, and all the other aspects that's required to be the best they can be. So in answer to your question, I've always done that. So I can't really say that I'm the guy that does the Falkenbergs and the one back and one forehand. I've never done that. I've always looked for challenging my players, working things out, trying to use their minds more than using their weapons. You know, you can give someone a hammer, but if he doesn't know how to hammer into a nail, then he's never going to build a house. So for me, yeah, of course, you know, you've got to give them the tools, which is the basic fundamentals, the backhand and the forehand and all that, and the serves. But after that, you've got to give them scenarios which they would receive in matches. So for example, if I have a player who has a weak backhand, I'm not going to go, right, you're going to do 200 backhands. No, I'm going to go, right, you're going to play a serve, you're going to do a backhand open up. He might return to your backhand, you play one more backhand, and then he's going to go to free play. He might come back to your backhand, it might not. But you're working on the backhand, and you're quickly moving on to the elements that are required in a game. And then the player would maybe psychologically be disappointed in some way that I'm giving it something. I might restrict the area, and then again, he has to find and fight to find solutions. And that's where the mental side comes in. And then quickly, just to summarize, the things that are required to be a top player, without a shadow of a doubt, is the mental side, which is something I'm fascinated with, and I've always enjoyed working with. And it all started with Zach about 17, 18 years ago. He was so ahead of his age. He'd constantly challenge me, and I would have to find riddles and challenges and things that would put him out of his comfort zone to get the best out of him, because he wasn't happy doing one back and one forehand. He wasn't interested. I had to always find things to challenge him. And then from there on, it made me into a coach that straight away understood it's about challenging the player, not about just making them play one back and one forehand. They feel good and they go and play a match and they don't know what to do.
Yeah,
cool. Ash, how long have I got?
Sorry?
How long have I got?
Officially 3 minutes.
All right, cool. Well, I just want to. This is I'm going to say something that none of you have said, which maybe I'm completely wrong, but
there's no answer wrong, mate.
My 3 attributes are: 1, money/opportunity; 2, mental/passion; 3, technical. Because 1, I believe that you could be the best technical player at the age of 12, 13, 14. If you don't have the money and the opportunities, then you won't become the player. But you also can't teach the mental side, the mental toughness. That's either in you or that's not in you. And because I believe Ellie's looking at me, but I believe you've either got that mental toughness. You might be able to work on it, but there are 11 or 12-year-olds that will sit and cry when they lose. And you've got the 11 or 12-year-olds that go, look, shit, this is what I did wrong. Maybe they won't say shit at 11 or 12, but they say, oh, poo. But they work on it. They know what to do. But let's remember,
Liam Pitchford was the biggest crybaby of all of us.
I don't know, Ellie. I'm not old enough
I
to
was
remember
up
that.
there.
But
He was called the Kleenex boy.
was it?
100%. I think you can teach mental toughness.
Yes,
Do
you
you?
can. Of course, you can teach mental
I
toughness.
was
And I
taught.
thought it'd be interesting because you said, all of you have been coaches, and I haven't been a coach. I don't know, and that's why. But I don't think you can teach passion. I think either someone's got passion or they haven't got passion. But I also believe without money and the opportunities that money brings and financial backing, that you might never get to demonstrate your technical ability.
That's
what are your
debatable.
thoughts on that?
Good
What are your
point.
thoughts on
Well,
that?
Aruna came from no money, just to let you know.
Okay, but I also... but there's many players that I believe that have dropped out of the game that had brilliant technical and
I'm not
mental
denying
ability,
that.
but
It
did not
definitely
get the
helps.
opportunities because they didn't have the financial backing to follow those to go any further. And I think that's the
It
biggest
helps.
opportunity. If I could give someone right now the money and the mental attributes that they come, then you could teach the technical. Even me, who's not a coach, I believe if I got a kid with a lot of money that's got the right backing and the right mental and passion, I could teach them the technique without much experience. I would need to pull in some help from left and right and from people that know more. But I think if you're teaching someone that hasn't got the money to go behind them and take them any further, they're never going to get past a certain level.
Good answer.
I think what you said, Dan, is a really good point on money that none of us mentioned, and it is really important on a broader scale to become good for a lot of players.
Yeah.
But I don't. For the specific question, I think to become number one, not important. I think the guy like Novak Djokovic, who comes from the streets in Serbia, he's becoming number one in the world because of that experience more so than coming from money.
Correct.
Yeah, and you go back to profiling, what you talk about earlier, and that, let's say Darius Knight, for example, you can always build a profile around someone from where they've come from.
But if he hadn't had the financial backing from Greenhouse to get to the level to become part of the England squad, Darius would have.
He wasn't financially backed by Greenhouse. I was with him.
No.
I can tell you now,
okay.
he wasn't.
Well, maybe but I'm just saying, unless he'd had some kind of backing to get him noticed by the England squad, he had never got the millions that he got after that. And mate, I did know that I might be wrong on this answer, but I'm just.
No,
It's good that you're bringing it out. And money does help. 100% agree with you there. Money does help without a shadow of a doubt. But I don't think it's a major factor. Many top athletes have made it from nothing.
Okay, well maybe
I think on a majority scale, you're probably right, Dan. Like if you took 80 of the top 100 in the world, money's probably a big factor. But I don't think I think for the best ones, it's not.
Yeah, well, Dan, I'll back you up on there. Obviously, Aaron's question, so he needs to answer it. But without any money, Ellie or Gavin ain't going to coach you. So they ain't work for free. So,
I coach Zach for nothing, so I'm not sure about that.
But over to Aaron.
Yeah, so
in fact, I invested my money in Zach. So,
but Ellie, can you see where my point's coming from?
of course, and I agree with you. I do agree with you. I'm just saying it does not mean it will stop you. If you have that vision, that tunnel vision, you'll get there.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to answer, it was just really a discussion. And Dan, there isn't a right or wrong answer. It's subjective, and every top player, if you went along, everyone in every sport in the world would have got there differently, with completely different attributes. And I think the wider question is, and Matthew's side, if you read his book called Bounce, is another question of
don't start that one. Do not start that one. Oh.
Is it learned or are you born with it? And it's a big question, and it comes into what we're saying. I mean, I've got three, and it touches pretty much on all of yours. And first one is drive. So the drive to succeed, so to be the best, the drive to learn. So you want to learn every session and every tournament you're in, and the drive to be the best. So I think if you don't want to be number one, or you don't want to be the best that you can be, you're always going to be playing to a recreational level. And it links to commitment as well. So if you're committed, I think that you can always reach the top. But that's not just commitment from yourself. And it links to money, what Danny's saying. I would say that your whole team has got to be together in their goal of what you want to achieve. So if your coach only wants you to be a league player and you want to be world number one, there's going to be a breakdown in that, and vice versa. and straight to your parents as well, which is what you're talking about, Danny. If your parents aren't committed to the cause from a young age like you are, you could fall short, you know. And when I was younger, some of the Chinese children would fall out to education, and I'm sure, Ellie, you might have experienced that as well.
All the time.
And when you get to 18 and 16 and you recognise alcohol and birds and whatever else, you know, and lifestyle and stuff changes, but your commitment has got to be solely on becoming the best that you want to, that you can get to. And also self-confidence. And I don't know, like, I think that you need to be over self-confidence to a point of arrogance, I would say, to be top player. And I'll use an example of like Ronnie O'Sullivan, Phil Taylor, like looking at them personalities, they, you know, Eric Cantona, Cristiano Ronaldo, it's endless. All of them people are, you'd look at them and you'd think, they're fucking annoying. They're so fucking arrogant, they are. But it's because they're so self-confident in what they do. They believe that they are the best in the world and no one can fucking touch them, and no one is ever going to touch them, you know. And that's how they live, and that's how they train, and they're all kind of connected. And look, like, I know in Sweden they train a little bit more open, a little bit more irregular and stuff like that. And I think England, for me, certainly when I was training, when I was coaching, they focused, and even right down to the UKCC levels, they focused a little bit too much on technical for me. It's not important to know how you play a backhand and how you play a forehand. Who cares? Like, how do you develop your own style of playing a forehand and playing a backhand? That's more interesting, because if you look at all the top players that are developing in the world, they've got their own particular style. Yes, they need a foundation, but they need to adapt in what they're doing. I think an adaptation is key. But yeah, it's just a talking point, really, that I was interested in opinions.
Nice. All right, then we'll move on. We're all right for time, I suppose. Gav, your question.
Yeah. Well, last time I was on, I kind of asked a little bit more of a fun question, and this time I tried to be a little bit more serious and relevant. But now I'm actually I'm disgusted with my question now, because all the other ones have been pretty good. I'm afraid mine's going to be boring. But anyway, we'll go for it. So, just trying to keep it relevant to coronavirus going on at the moment, I said, what do you think is going to be a new or emerging trend in table tennis as things get going again? And that can be in clubs, in competitions. I'm open to you guys taking this question in whatever direction you want, whether it's on an international level, local level. What do you think is going to be the big changes in the game?
I think it's quite clear with the virtual. It's going to go with virtual coaching and a lot of virtual stuff. That's number one. That's for sure. Yeah,
well, you can expand there, Ellie. You've taken it on, so I'm happy for you to expand. I was going to give you more time to think, but go for it.
Sorry, Danny. Sorry. Okay, you guys can jump on. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I did jump in. I apologize.
No, you're first, though. He said you're first.
No, you're in now.
Okay.
I was going to give you more time to think, El, but not anymore.
All right. Yeah, so like I said, definitely 100% virtual coaching. I mean, I've even seen, I have to say, I'm a little bit disappointed with this one. I mean, there are reputable training camp called, I don't know if everyone knows, there's a training camp in Denmark called B75, and they've just done a training camp.
I've been to that B75.
Yeah, and I know they do a wonderful job, and I've heard many lovely stuff about them. But where I feel a bit disappointed now, I mean, me personally, I do loads of international training camps, and I've cancelled. I don't want to, I want to do it properly, face to face. I want to hear, I want to feel, I want to really be there. Sorry, I want to be there to give you the best experience possible. And B75 have taken it to the virtual world. Now they're doing a virtual training camp. I don't know if you guys know, but they're doing a virtual training camp. And basically what it means is that you find a partner or a table, you're at home, you're training with them, and there's a coach virtually, and they manage 4 players, and you pay £300 for the week. For me, I just feel like you're either taking the piss, or you really are more about the money, or I don't know. It doesn't feel right for me. I could be completely wrong, and people could be disagreeing with me, but it just feels wrong. I can understand some, a lot of people are actually calling me now and saying, can you coach me virtually? Fine, but that's a one-on-one. And I actually don't really ask them for money. I say, you can either pay me a donation if you want, or don't pay me anything. No problem at all. But I feel I give them value because I'm there with them. I'm talking to them personally. I'm trying to find solutions one way or another. And then they also send me a video. I can look at it, and I'm giving them feedback. But with a training camp, they say you're training 6 hours and there's one coach for 4 players. And how much can you get out of that? And you're paying £300. It just felt a little bit poor to me. So the virtual world is the way that it's kind of going. Personally, I don't agree with it. It's a sport. It's meant to be physical. It's meant to be action. It's meant to be environment, feeling, buzz, the whole shebang. There's only so much you can do on this, which is lovely to talk, and I love this, but it's very limited.
Who's next, Gav?
Oh.
Go for Aaron in next up.
Yeah, so my first thing, I think, put an exclamation mark on, is importance of health. So I think if you look at, certainly from an introduction point of view, I think coming out of this, you're going to have such an importance of health. I mean, you can notice the people walking, running, ordering bikes, I'm conscious of it. And I think people are going to be, you're going to get an influx of people moving into sport from a young age that want to be healthy. And that's physically as well. But also, like what Ellie was saying earlier, is that table tennis has been proven to be such good help for the mental attributes of it as well. And I think all sport in general, and I think certainly being on Facebook, one of my friends sadly passed away, hung himself during this period as well. And I think there's been such a big thing about mental health and people having some kind of focus and guidance, and the London programs, the Greenhouse and what Ellie's doing, and all of those are such great examples of giving the children going into adults a focus on life that takes them away from what their real life is at home. And in some cases, and I've worked with some terrors, including Dan, that need that escape, like the sport or the game or whatever it may be, or even that time with a coach or someone that cares about them, is important. I think the mental side of it will drive people into sport and want to improve. The other thing I think is adaptability. So I think what we've noticed during this time, and I'm a publican, so I've been hit hard because obviously my pubs are closed and continue to be closed. But I think because I'm driven to succeed in whatever I do, people will find a way if you want to. And I think people will have learnt already. If you're number one in England and you're number one in China or whatever, or you're number one in Essex, and you want to be better, then they will have already found a way and will continue to find a way of how they can improve what they need to improve. So I think adaptability will improve. And probably that virtual side of it, Ellie, is that probably coaches have learnt a lot. And I think, by charging too much is not fair, but the idea is clever.
Yes.
They've adapted coaching into virtual. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's those people that can't travel to, if I say, for example, you're in the southwest of England and there's no decent table tennis coaches and you can't get to Nottingham or Sheffield every day. virtual coaching is perfect. You know, like you're doing serving practice in your hall, you know, and Alan Cook or Craig Bryant or whatever is giving you feedback on how you can improve that serve.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, like that time's changed, isn't it? Like, you know, if Matthew Said's day of, you know, only being good because he had 3 or 4 players around him, you know, like, you know, you can speak to anyone around the world if you want to improve, you know. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think people would have learned a lot during these times, and it's not just negative. I think there's lots of things that people will take forward with them.
Sure.
Who's next, guy?
Great points.
Ash, you jump up.
Yeah. To be fair, Aaron took pretty much all of my answers. It was.
You always say that, Ashley.
Yeah, no. Unless I go first. That's what I'm going to say.
Ash just sits on it, taking all the credit for every week on Facebook, saying, "Oh, it's my idea," and he says he does fuck all for it, really, doesn't he?
At least he's honest.
He's doing it though. He's creating it. You need a creator, mate.
Exactly. I was just going to say, when Ellie was mentioning the B75, I never knew nothing about it, but when you were saying it, I was thinking, wow, what a good idea. And if you charge 300 and you get people to sign up, well, maybe you're too cheap. And if you're not getting
Ash, do you want to go into business?
But we'll talk.
He's gambling, mate.
That is a gamble, going into business with Danny. Yeah, no.
Well, if you want to get fat, that's probably a decent business to go in with Danny. It can help you along the way.
We'll see. Yeah, no, but that's what I was going to say. I was just saying it's a good idea. And obviously, without repeating what everyone else said, obviously, it's making people aware of the virtual coaching. I mean, it was always there. It's been there for a few years, but people are now starting to do it and take it to another level, you know?
Yeah.
Virtual, like Aaron said, just imagine if, I don't know if Marlon speaks English. Just say he spoke English and he said, I'm going to do a course. I'm doing one-to-one training. He can sit there on Zoom and you can have 5 you guys doing practice on your robot and he's going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to lie, he'll get the customers because you're learning from the master. Yeah, no matter, I don't care what level coaching course he's got. So people are going to start picking
some ideas there.
Yeah, no. Sorry, Dan, I'm going business from long. But but yeah, so virtually is the way forward. People are just realizing it and they're taking it to next levels. Yeah, next person.
Right. I wrote down a few things. One, when you come onto the Zoom coaching, I think there's only so much you can do on here. I think service. If I had my own club, personally, this is the time I would have taken to get 30 of the members on here and paid someone to do a mental session on here, talking to people about how they think during a mental coach, how they think during a match. I think this is brilliant for it. I don't think you'll do much, even if I rate everyone in here as good players and good coaches, but I worked closely with Ellie and Aaron out this. I don't see there's much that you could really teach someone on here, really watching their forehand technique. Is that you might be able to see a few things, but I don't think you'll ever, it's not a long-term solution for definite. 3, I think this would have a big difference on the higher level because I don't think our top players in the country, junior and senior, will want to be travelling abroad for quite a while. I don't see them wanting to travel abroad. So they're going to have to rethink where they train and where they will base themselves. So I think it'd be quite interesting to see how things change after this because you might see the re-erection of the re-erection of a national centre.
Yeah, sorry, Dan, sorry to butt in, but I forgot to mention the bloody question. I forgot the question because I was distracted numerous times from Aaron. But the question, obviously, how's it going to affect the sport? It's affected the ping pong already because they had a few tournaments in China, which is not going to happen. And all the players are going to go to China. So, sorry, great point. Carry on, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I do think you won't. Obviously, the Olympics aren't happening this year, but I assume, I don't know this, but I assume their plan would have been to go to China before the Olympics. If it wasn't their plan, then Gavin Evans needs to buck his idea up because that's where they need to go. But you might see a resurrection of a national centre in the UK that isn't called a national centre, but you'll find them all training there because they don't want to get on the plane. I know Pitchford plays in Japan. Does he want to be getting on a plane to Japan straight after this is all over? I don't know.
The amount of money he gets, yes, he does.
Yeah, okay, yes. But do you get what I mean? While this is going on when he can't train, we'll see what happens.
Is it safe? Is it? Yeah, I think that's a really important.
And as Ellie said, if you were paying me that amount of money, I'd put 10 masks on and I'd be on that plane anyway. But I'm just thinking long term, and yeah, and also, Aaron, if you want to get your pubs back in business, if you can find a way of serving me a pint without social distancing, mate, I'm more than happy to come up and try the distancing measures.
Virtual pint.
Yeah, but I'll have a.
Well, we've got things in place, mate. Don't
If
worry
you can serve me a pint through here, mate, I'll be your biggest customer. Where do you want me?
You're in, mate. You're in.
Go on, Gav, you answer your own.
Yeah, nice answers. And to be honest, my answer before I started this wasn't fantastic, and I knew I wouldn't sound amazing when I answered. I just really wanted to see did any of you guys have different ideas on what you thought was going to emerge. So I think like the world of online coaching is definitely going to increase. So I'm doing it a lot myself now. I'm sure Ellie's doing the same. And I think it has been beneficial. It's not going to be more beneficial than direct interaction if you're beside a player and in a table and you can work with them. But there's a lot of benefits to it. You know, I've found I've been able to bring I work with the Paris squad in Ireland, and I've been able to bring them together almost every day, whereas they don't see each other from one end of the month to the other normally. And it's a really good way to keep that squad feeling and togetherness, and we're all improving together and working for each other, and that's so that level of being able to do that we never were able to do before, and we wouldn't have even considered doing something online. So I think people's perception now of what's valuable will change and say, well, you know, I could never have sold a virtual one-to-one before, but now, like you said, Ellie,
as a national coach now, do you think it's a good way? Do you think it's a good way to stay in contact with all? I think from an England point of view, this is a great way for Gavin to get on and every week and see how talk to every of his players. But would you use it? Would you use it for technical play? Like, or would you just use it to catch up and see what everyone's doing?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the situation. You know, if I've got a player in the north of Ireland and it's going to take me 2 hours to drive there and then 2 hours to drive back, and I'm only going to work for 1 hour or 2 hours with them, maybe 3, that doesn't represent value. Whereas if I can go from my seat here, work for 2 hours, might not get exactly the same level of work done, but I can do that 3 times instead of the 6 hours it would have taken me in the one time, you know? So I think if it's valuable in that sense, then yeah, absolutely, you can do technical work, and to do 3 2-hour sessions online for me is more valuable than 1 2-hour session in a hall.
Nice one. Nice.
If the setup is good, and if what you can do from your setup is good. Like if you're in a garage that has 1 foot behind the table, of course not. And if you're robots from the Stone Age, of course not. then it's going to be difficult. But I think just the level of efficiency is going to improve now, and people's willingness to do things like work online will change. And actually, I thought it was an interesting point that Aaron made on health. Like I didn't even it was crazy, but I didn't even consider health as a possibility. Like, which sounds strange now that I look back, but no, it's an interesting one. And I think the only other thing that I would say is we become so focused on how many hours table dance practice we need to do, and on the table it's got to be 6 hours table dance a day, that we neglect so many other areas of our game, and like the mental side, the video analysis, the S&C, the nutrition. This has given people a time to really engage with those areas that can actually make percentage differences in their game. And I think now, if people see those differences quickly after being in lockdown for 8 weeks or 12 weeks, then they will continue to work in those areas. Like I know I completely neglect the video analysis, but now I'm doing 4 hours a week with one individual player from my para program. And it's unbelievable the amount of ideas we have to bring to the table when we do get time to practice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Nice. Just shows there's no such thing as a bad question, because we had some really good answers there and some like thinking outside the box. I just got this picture now of someone desperately playing table tennis and getting their dad to like throw him a ball across the garage, and like you said, you got to have the proper setup. Danny, your question, mate.
Right, I had 2 questions when I come on here, and I'm going to scrap them both because of this conversation, but also while I've got Gavin, Ashley and Ellie in this conversation. Sorry, Aaron, I want you to answer it, but why do you feel that Table Tennis England do not support the Ping Pong World Championships? While I've got free ping pong, because I've got a song.
I don't work for them anymore, mate. I'm entitled to an opinion. They know me.
No, you are. No. Sorry, but I'm coming because they've all played it, and I didn't know if you'd ever been to see it or at the Ali Pali or anything like
Well,
that.
I tried to play it, but I was pretty shit, to be honest. But
Aaron can answer first then.
Go on, Aaron.
well, I think it goes back to exactly how we started, didn't it, ages ago, and that is how is table tennis perceived, you know, and it's look, there is a for and against argument to it, you know, and what Gavin was saying in terms of well, actually, it's in the ping pong world, it's drumming up a lot of interest, and it's exciting and it's good to watch. And potentially the name ping pong is a little bit more cooler than table tennis. And there could be a swap over. The argument that English table tennis would make is, and there's probably some jealousy, don't get me wrong, in there as well. Like, you know, Barry Hearns has come in, he's splashed out all of the money and invented a new sport as such, that is worth more money than table tennis itself. And it's a bit embarrassing probably for them. You know, and I think the thing is with English table tennis is that they want to professionalise everything, and they want to kind of streamline it into how they want it, and probably how they perceive table tennis
is completely
different to how ping pong is. And Barry Hearns, I mean, look at darts. I mean, fucking hell, darts is supposedly the most boring sport ever played. Someone throwing a repetitive dart exactly the same way on a fucking 7-foot board. How can you make that exciting? Well, he has, you know, and he has made snooker exciting, you know. And the thing is it's taken something boring and dramatized it, you know. You have a walkout, you call people names, you have some music, you get your crowd all up and close, you start chucking some alcohol down people's necks, you get people singing songs. That's not what English Table Tennis Association is about. I'm not saying that that's right, because I think there needs to be a balance between the two, but they'd be scared about approaching half. Yeah, so for me, you know, like a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of professionalism, and a little bit of vision, you know, and it's all completely different. Like they run completely parallel to one another, and they don't entangle. And for my opinion, they should.
That's right. Yeah. And thanks, Aaron. Just to add that as well, coming to you three guys. Sorry, I forgot this, Aaron. What do you? Just as a little side note, what do you think of their letter to stopping people from representing England full team table tennis if they played the ping pong? Just as a little side note, yes or no? Go on, Aaron, just quickly, yes or no?
No.
You
should be able to play both.
Thank you. Next up, we go. Oh, I'm so excited. We go Ash first.
Aaron nicked all my answers. No, I'm joking. He did. Yeah, no, I think it is a bit of embarrassment, jealousy. Coming on to your side note question with the letter, I think that's a little bit of losing control, wanting to gain back some control, some power. And unless someone from Table Tennis England comes on this show and tells me otherwise, that's my opinion. I don't think there's any other explanation for it. For the reason why, again, I'm just going on like hearsay here because I have no factual evidence, so you can believe me if you want. But from what they're saying, like how they didn't want to work with Barry or Matt, didn't even want to like do something together. I think that's crazy. And then for the letter to some of the players, whether it was a letter or an email, it doesn't make a difference. To say that if you play this, you're not going to be selected for this, I think that's ridiculous.
Right, Gav.
Yeah, it's a good question. Before I answer, if you're not happy with my answer, first of all, I don't care. Second of all, remember that I am one of the biggest advocates for the ping pong game. I love it, and I think it's great, and I want to see it build. That's just something to remember as I go along through my answer. But from a table tennis England perspective, I would ask you, what's the goal of the national team? What's the goal of that senior men's team or senior women's team? Certainly in the men's team, the goal is to be the best team in Europe, I hope. If it's not the best to be the best team in Europe, then there's a problem if that's not the goal. And is it professional to have your focus on another sport? And I know there is the argument that ping pong won't negatively affect your table tennis game. It's like in tennis, changing from clay to grass. Of course, it might only be an adaptation period for some players, but in table tennis we don't have those adaptation periods. It's not normalized as of yet anyway. So you need to be at 100% sharpness all the time to be able to build your ranking in pro tours and win league matches and win national team matches if you're in European League or whatever you're in. And if you have a month or 2 months in the year where you're also practicing a different sport, or you're also losing a bit of your technique, and your focus is somewhere else, then I don't think that's very professional, and I don't think that's going to complement trying to be the best team in Europe. I mean, it's not just table tennis England. You look at any country in Europe. Is any top player playing ping pong? No, not one. Like, you're talking about the best player was Lubo Pistic, and he stopped playing so he could concentrate on qualifying for the Olympics. He hasn't played in 2 years because he wanted the table tennis game to be better. So if you can't have it two ways, if you want to give equal opportunity in the national team.
I didn't realise that about Pistic, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to have equal opportunity in your national team and give everyone a chance to play and la-di-da, and you don't want to be the best, then fair enough, let everyone play and write it into your policy that you don't care. But if you want to be the absolute best and you want to try to be the best team, you can't play ping pong. Like, I don't care if, and I'm a really good friend with Andrew Bagley, but I don't care if he's 5% or 10% better than Tom Jarvis or Sam Walker or whoever. If his focus isn't 100% there in the team, then for me as a coach, you wouldn't be picked.
All right, yeah, you've just completely shit all over my answer, but yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Really?
Just quickly on that though, isn't it important to sometimes let a player make his own decision rather than create rules around it? Because if Paul Drinkle started playing ping pong because he wanted some extra money, then
He did play it, by the way.
He actually played one in Las Vegas.
Because he's not focused. He's not committed. All of the things that we're talking about to be world number one, he's just not done.
But can I just say something? I think everyone else will know, but Paul Drinkle played the first sandpaper bat in Las Vegas, and before it was promoted by Matchroom, as far as I'm concerned. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was actually I remember ETTA, back as it was known, were writing all about it over the website because they didn't give a shit about it then. It's only... Go on, Ellie.
So that comes to my kind of answer.
Sorry, El, one second. I actually didn't answer your add-on question and say, would I write it into the policy? No, I wouldn't write it into your selection policy. But it would certainly, as the coach, have some sort of negative impact on your chances.
100%.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
So my answer is, I think there's a bit of fear happening now. Before, it was seen as one tournament, wasn't that big, there wasn't a big following. Now all of a sudden China coming in, it's getting bigger, and I think there's a bit of a fear factor from the table tennis England that potentially if this continues growing, we're going to be in trouble. So for me, that's probably the biggest factor now, which is why they're trying to maintain control, as Ash said. I can't really see anything else. I just think that the sport has grown, and it is anyone would be scared if someone like Barry Hearn is against you. So in a way, you can't blame them. But at the same time, if you're smart, what you do is you grow yourself. You get bigger, you get stronger, and you'll be fine. But instead, they're going on the defense, and they're trying to restrict it, and in a way that could make them grow even more. So it could backfire.
And what's your opinion on the letter sent to England players, aka Badley?
100% let them play both.
Cool. Right. Going on to mine, I think they're embarrassed that they can't put that kind of production on. As far as I'm aware, apart from the English Open, which I think was at least 5-6 years ago, they've not had anything to do with the ETTA or Table Tennis England on Sky Sports. correct me if I might be wrong, but I think when Barry Hearn said that he was wanting to get involved with table tennis or ping pong, I think Table Tennis England should have jumped through as many hoops as they had to.
I'll have to back Table Tennis England a little bit there, sorry, because I do know a little bit about it, and he was negotiating that basically everyone has to play with the same equipment, and Table Tennis England said no, and you can kind of understand that. Exactly. That's the only time I'll ever defend them.
I did feel that you might. I thought because of you and Fred Dove, I thought you might have known something there. But I do feel just not.
I've nearly had a couple of punch-ups with him.
Who hasn't?
But I do feel like, okay, I didn't know he wanted everyone to use the same racket, which also makes sense with the ping pong. But also, right now, if they could get in contact with Barry saying, look, we've seen what you've done, can we somehow tag on the back of that, or just even get in their name?
Barry told them to piss off, and that was it.
Yeah, well, there's a reason that the one's successful and the other one's not, and the one that's successful is Barry Hearn, and the other one that's going down the drain is Table Tennis England. And I think what they do as a production compared to even the Table Tennis World Championships completely blows it out of the water. And I think with the letter to England players, they're embarrassed. I think winning the World Championships, am I right in saying Bagley he won $20,000 when he wins it? Why would he not win that instead of playing the English National Championships normal table tennis and win 800 quid? Where he'd be playing in front of maybe 150 fans, and 50 of them are VIPs from Table Tennis England that have just crawled out of their care home again just to come and watch because they get a vote at the AGM every year. And also, he might get to play in front of the England national coach, but he doesn't pick the team either. So that'd be a great laugh, wouldn't it? But I think they're just embarrassed that they can't afford to put up that kind of prize money. And I think they're absolutely shitting their pants now because they've realised how big it's getting. It's no longer just one tournament a year. It's now becoming a whole profile of the sport. I believe Barry Hearn got involved because he realised how big table tennis is in China. And if I'm honest, I don't see him really. I think the Ping Pong World Championships at the Ali Pali is just a small tournament for him now. He cares more about the events in China, which is what's making him his money. I might be wrong. I might be right. But I think Table Tennis England are absolutely crapping their pants because they realise it's only a matter of years until they've been beaten well out of the water.
Yeah, I think they missed the trick there. If that was a deal to play with the same bat, just swallow your pride. Play with the same bat. You're gonna grow the sport. I don't like.
Aaron, you know what? We could have with Barry Hearn's backing. You never know where he could have taken it.
I think Aaron said it earlier. The general public, they don't really care who's bats. Or Gavin said who like. You see the same sport. What is the difference? Like it's you're playing on the table. And it's only going to benefit. So just grab hold and let him.
The randomer down the road has no idea what the difference is, and he can't see the difference, but he still sees two athletes, and that was my point earlier.
Yeah. So just grab hold of it and let it take you, Aaron, because it's your first time. You want to have the final say. We've got got a minute left.
No, I just think one thing I would say about English Table Tennis Association is, it just gets a lot of like. If you look at when I started and I was coaching for them, just before that, they were doing terribly. The progression that they've made in the last 6 years, and where Liam, Paul, Gavin, and Sam, what they've done is more than what we've probably done nearly ever. And I think it gets a lot of stick, and they are moving in the right direction, but they probably just need a bit more of a big kick. And you could argue that they've recently taken a step back, but they're still progressing. I mean, if you compare it to when I was and Ellie was about, coaching them, and how much have they progressed, Ellie? Like loads, haven't they? I mean, in terms of the top players. I don't know. It's probably not down to them, but certainly they've thought out of the box. But they don't need to be scared. They need to fight, and that's the difference.